because of COVID. We had a lot of people that got help from Polk Cares. The overwhelming majority legitimately. But we had a few dozen. I think we're up to 39 in addition to this that we're investigating, but none of that other 39, even though they've submitted documents, none of them actually received any money because of the great work and the checks and balances of Mr. Hallman, and we'll let the deputy county manager talk about that. But here's what we found. That Phyllis, who's the general manager, she, like Ebony Cheney, felt sorry for her, so she dummied up a letter so she could qualify for Polk Cares. Then that letter was duplicated through those that work at McDonald's that were to receive the money illegally. We found, I believe it was 3 that worked for public supermarkets that took records and took a document, an HR document, off of a bulletin board and used Public's logo, public supervisor's name, and as a result received money. Here's what makes me angry about this. There are people, because there was a finite amount of money, there are people who needed the money the worst that didn't get the money because these folks stole and created fraudulent acts to steal. We determined through all of the communicating with them, either they made admissions or outright confessions, they didn't qualify. They knew they didn't qualify, but they stole stuff. So, like yesterday when we started arresting people, if you were in line at McDonald's on 27th Central, and when you got there to get your hamburger, it was cold, it's because we were arresting people. But at the end of the day, not only are they held accountable, but here's my word to the wise. Other of you are under investigation still. If you violated the law and got money, we may not know it at this point in the investigation, but we're continuing to go through documents. But we'll get to you. If I were you, I would beat feet down to the county and give that money back before we figure it out. Because see, if the county's got their money back, then yeah, you may have some problems, but certainly you can go before the courts or the judges and say, hey, you know, I made it right. I shouldn't have done what I did. These folks are charged with a litany of charges. They're charged with scheme to defraud, grand theft. Phyllis is charged with cheating, they're charged with criminal use of personal identification. And we've got examples of the corporate paperwork that was dummied up. We had paralegals from the literacy program, the literacy school over in the Winter Haven area. I want you to think about this for a minute. That's an oxymoron. The paralegals weren't very literate when they decided to forge documents to steal money. So you're not stealing from the government. You're stealing from the taxpayers. You're stealing from the good-hearted people that made this money available for those that are really, really struggling. And once again, some of those that were really, really struggling didn't get the money because these folks who had no right to the money stole it. Let me turn it over for comments from our Deputy County Manager, Chief Hallman.
Thank you, Sheriff. Joe Hallman, Deputy County Manager. The county received about $126 million from the federal government for the CARES Act program. As a result, this particular program, about $53 million was set aside to assist individuals. One of the marching orders we got from our county commissioners was to get the money in the hands of the people that needed it the most. However, it was our job to make sure those who didn't qualify didn't get it. And through internal control and working with Publix and other companies and ultimately the sheriff's office, we're here today. So I want to thank the sheriff and his detectives for following up and making sure these folks are held accountable for their actions. But again, the whole idea was to make sure that the money got it in the hands of those who needed it the most. Thank you.
The investigation continues. Certainly, we believe there are others that are complicit, but we also need the community's help. If you know of somebody, you can help speed this process along by giving us a call. But at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right. This COVID is no joke. People are suffering with the illness, and people are suffering because of the illness. And we are going to join with our Board of County Commissioners, the state and federal government, to make sure that we do all we can to help those that need the money worst and hold everyone accountable that's stealing, that's taking money. Are there any questions?
Are you really going to get the money back? And then why did Phyllis Tirado, who is doing this work for everybody else, not rip off the system herself?
She felt sorry for her employees and thought they could use some extra money. So she dummied up the letter for this one who she thought, well, gosh, she could really use the money. She's going through a tough economic time. But it wasn't because of COVID. She clearly violated the law. And then the person that she tried to help gave the form out to others and said, hey, we figured out how to get some money. $2,000 apiece. Yes, ma'am.
So are all these other people employees at the McDonald's, or Ebony just kind of shared it
No,
to her friends?
not all of them. All of the ones that got money from McDonald's are on this board, and we can point out the individuals. Some of them are Publix employees. Some of them came from a nursing home. Some of them came from the school. The principal has fired all of them. Publix has fired them. McDonald's still had them making hamburgers yesterday. But today, they're booked into the jail. If they don't get out, we'll let them go down and work in food services and teach us how to get food out quicker.
To clarify, so they used the body written by Phyllis and then put like the header of wherever they worked?
What they did is they took other documents that were already, in some cases, signed. In some of the Publix cases, the HR person they put on the form was not an HR person, didn't exist at all. So they took one, in some instances, they actually took signed forms, scanned them in, took the body of it out, leaving the letterhead and the authorization signature, and then wrote the information in. Interestingly enough, in one of them, they even spelled Phyllis's name wrong. So the people working in the program for the county caught this. The checks and balances, once again, the system worked. And it worked for the people who needs the money the most, because who knows how many there would have been had they not got in early on and stopped it, because there are a lot of people that were trying it. This is all we have clearly determined took the money. Now, I've got to tell you, we did have 2 or 3 others who got the money inappropriately, but they qualified for the money, they just didn't do it right. So we didn't charge them criminally because we didn't think there was any criminal intent there when we looked at the program and the requirements of the program. Or some people didn't do the false forms at all, but somebody did the false form for them, and they go, they just sent me a check. I mean, I knew they were sending checks, but I didn't file any false forms. I didn't ask for any money. So we're dealing with them. They owe the money back. But once again, we didn't see criminal intent where they dummied up the forms, where they falsified signatures, where there was criminal intent. And we wanted to make sure, and that's why we waited until we took them in custody and got their admissions and or their confessions and looked at the nuances to make sure, because there are several opportunities for receiving the money, and we had to make sure that these folks clearly defrauded the system and the program, and they did.
Joe, didn't I read that the county just got millions more dollars for the people that are legit? They can still apply for money?
Yes, the county did get,
Come over here, Joe.
yes, the county did get, I think it's another $21 million, and we're in the process of now of deciding how that's going to occur. Yes.
Did they receive $18,000, these 9 people?
2,000.
Well, right, so
Total.
total
9, yes.
18,000?
Mhm.
They received it. Did they give that money back?
No, they're under criminal investigation. I'm certain that that'll probably be part of the sanction, is you got to pay it back. Certainly, I hope so. That's what we're going to advocate for with the state attorney's office. But for the extra $21 million that the Board of County Commissioners received, and the commissioners have so gratefully sent out for those who need it worse, here's a newsflash. It's free information. Those of you who are not entitled to it, don't try to falsify forms and get it, because if you do, we'll be able to put your picture here and the next one's picture here. We'll just have us a bigger board, because we will arrest you, guaranteed, 100%, and put you in a no-COVID cell at the jail. Okay?
Mr. Holman, sorry, one more question. Do you have any idea how many people, deserved this money but weren't able to get it, like in the first round? Do you have any numbers on that?
I do not. We did have a waiting list. If you remember, the first round of money went out, and we had more, especially the seniors program, we had more folks that was eligible to get it than the monies we had. And so the commissioners allocated additional dollars to that in an effort to make sure our seniors and disabled person got more money. And even then, there was still some left on the list needing help.
And I'm sure you know, we've been hearing stories, people so desperate for this money. How does this make you feel?
Well, it makes us feel really, really, really bad, because the folks who really need the money the most didn't get it. And then you have folks who would fraudulently get it. But as always, you'll get caught, and they got caught.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people thinking, well, they're giving the money away and nobody's paying attention. You know, thought for the day. There's checks and balances in place. You're having to send written documents. It ain't rocket science. But the checks and balances caught these folks, caught other folks that are still in line and are being investigated. But these are the ones that actually got money, keeping those that needed it the worst from getting it. Makes us angry. All right? Thank you. God bless you. Have a great weekend. See you at the next event.